As the old saying goes, there are two certainties in life. Number one, death. And number two, taxes. We can't help you with death, but we've got you covered with taxes. This is Ask the Tax Attorney. As you know, the federal government doesn't play when it comes to owning taxes, but too many people freak out about it. So if you're a business owner and you're in trouble, or you're afraid you might be in trouble with the IRS, this is the show for you. Your host is a tax attorney with over 20 years of experience, and she's helped clients erase over $4 million in tax debt. So let's get to it. This is the Ask the Tax Attorney podcast. And now your host, Claudia Moncars.
Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for listening and viewing us. And we have here, I want to say a special thank you and welcome to Marlene Markowitz. She's an immigration attorney in South Florida. And thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yes, Marlene Markowitz, immigration attorney, but I know I'm in South Florida, but I'm actually a nationwide practice. So it doesn't matter where my clients are. We represent people nationally and internationally.
That is true. Because I do tax, so I know I have clients all over the world. So yes, that's one of the practice where you can represent everybody anywhere. So what I like to always tell people is that I tell my clients, yes, I'm an attorney, but first and foremost, I'm a business owner. So I like to, and part of the reason for the podcast is that we can showcase how we as lawyers are also business owners and we can understand our business clients' perspective. So can you tell us about your business journey? How do you went from being an employee attorney to a law firm owner / attorney?
So I started my journey 11 years ago. Well, first I started practicing, for two law firms. I was at one for about 5 years, and now I've had my law firm for 6 years. And one of the biggest things that we want as business owners is that flexibility to do what you want when you want it. Even though sometimes that might mean that we work late hours or something like that, but we can always adjust when we're working, right? So I'll be going on vacation next week, and my kids are on spring break, and I don't have to ask anyone for that time off. I can just take time off and go. And so that's what started my business journey, was needing that flexibility because I have 2 little kids, and it's definitely been super fulfilling to be able to do what I want so I can go with them to school events or whatever it may be. Definitely that flexibility is what led me here.
It's funny. I started when my oldest one was actually like a few months old. So that's when I started my law firm. Is that when you started yours as well?
Yeah. So my first was a year old. And I always say that, we end up having multiple babies around the same time because I find a lot of mothers also go into opening up their businesses around the same time. It's like we're giving birth to multiples.
That's true. That's true. So I imagine that, in 6 years, that's a long time for being a business owners, and especially when, they say, I think, the first 5, it takes the hardest is the first 5 years for a business to make it through. So since you passed that mark, I'm sure that you also have a lot of, especially with 2 practice, trademark and immigration, you have a lot of stories of how of your business journey. Can you share a couple of those with us? Maybe one about immigration and one with trademark?
Yeah. So one of the tricky things I found was trying to figure out that balance between doing what you went to school for and doing what you didn't go to school for. We didn't go to school, as lawyers to be business owners. So it's like one of these things where we've had to learn on the go. Like I've picked up how to do marketing or how to be my own social media person or how to, and it's one of these things where I've actually found that I love social media. And I am now a lawyer / influencer for both immigration and trademark. But it's really funny how I've been able to share my immigration story through social media, and just being authentic has really helped me bring in those clients. And one of my biggest tips that I have for any business owner is to be authentically yourself on social media, because it's really helped me thrive. And I think people hire people that they like. So I think, it's finding that you may not want every single client. You might just want the clients that are willing to work with you and that are flexible with you and that vibe with you. And that's one of those things that I've learned through marketing and social media. And then, it's funny because like you're a tax accountant or a tax attorney, I'm sorry. And it's like these tax things that like, I didn't know I needed a tax attorney, and I didn't know I needed accountants and bookkeepers and other attorneys to go over my contracts, ethics attorneys. And it's funny how now through social media, I'm also connecting with all these other professionals that I also need for my business.
Yeah, no, it is, like you said, at the beginning, when you start your business, you're like, have all this, like 10 different hats. And I have to admit, I do taxes. I help people get out of trouble with the IRS. But one time I actually got in trouble myself with this Florida Department of Revenue. And I had a friend that specializes in that got me out of trouble. So even in our areas, even though we're lawyers, we hire other lawyers to help us out. There's been many times I hire a lawyer for my business. So like I said, we do. Yes. And one of the things that you said that you now, I guess, to do a lot of social media, do you find that helps you to give, not just being authentic, but to just give advice and give some tips to clients? I mean, or potential clients, I guess, not clients necessarily through there.
Right. So it's like one of those things where I didn't go to school to be a social media influencer, to do videos or podcasts or anything, but because of my business, I now do social media. I've authored a book. I've done several podcast interviews. I've gone to speaking engagements, and these are all things that if you would have told me 12 years ago, you were going to be doing all these things, I would have been like, you're out of your mind. I'm going to go work at a law firm. And like, that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I do get the majority of my clients through social media, and I have found that connecting with them and engagement has really brought them over to my law firm for either immigration or trademark. My immigration page is the one that does really, really well. I do it in Spanish, and I target the Latino community because I'm a Guatemalan immigrant. So it works really well, and that's how I do find my clients.
Perfect. And can you give us, I always like to end the show with giving a tip to our listeners, business owners, a tip, because I know sometimes a legal tip can be pretty practical at the same time and save a lot of time or money to a business owner, potentially.
Right. So a tip targeted towards a business owner specifically would be in the area of immigration is have an immigration attorney on hand, because there are so many immigrants in the United States. Sometimes you're not sure whether the documents that you're receiving when you're hiring someone, right, through this human resources process that we go through, whether you're going to need an immigration attorney's help for that. And sometimes it's not something that you're going to pay for. Maybe, you might just have a friend that's an immigration attorney, but it's someone something we don't usually think about. Like we have to check their work permit or their residency card.
True.
Is it valid? And it's something that I feel like we always forget. Like we're doing this hiring process and you might find the most fabulous candidate, and then you realize you actually need an immigration attorney for them.
Yeah, that is true. Because and all the things that you learn about how to hire a candidate or how to hire staff for you, they never tell you, make sure that you get this 2 documents, or make sure you have all these documents that that ICE, immigration needs just for your records. So you're not hiring somebody that cannot work, or all the documents. So that's true. They never tell you. I don't think I've ever seen anything. I don't think that tells me to double check if the forms are correct. I may have to call you to double check my staff forms are correct. So that's great. Yes, that's a great tip. And is that something that I guess your firm offers if they wanted to double check that all their documents are correct?
Yeah, that's definitely something we do. We do I-9 audits. We help out with all of that process. We also, help sometimes employees themselves are asking, for an employer to petition for them. So we help them with that process. Or sometimes it just, through life, you find that you need an immigration attorney, and it's not something that people think of top of mind.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Marlene, thank you so much for your time to giving us all these great tips to our listeners. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you and just get more information from you, what is the best way to reach out?
Probably on social media, where I'm there as Abogada, which is attorney in Spanish, Abogada Marlene. That's my social media handle everywhere. It's the best way to find me.
Okay, great. And I know Marlene also has an ebook on the 10 tips for applying for U.S. citizenship. It's on her website. And we'll also hopefully get a link for our show notes to also have it in here. So everybody can look up for that. And also, so if you enjoy this podcast and you liked it, please remember to subscribe. And if you find the information useful, please send it over to a friend and share it so they can they can have this great information as well. Thank you and talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ask the Tax Attorney podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. And if they're in tax trouble, they will too. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.